Hey men, a happy Monday to you all, and I am just super excited to bring you this video training in terms of how to get the most out of your program. Now, men, we know that training is so much more than just the physical. There's so much so much of a mental capacity and strength that comes into play to really execute what it is that, we're wanting to achieve. So what I wanted to do with this training was just give you a few tips so that way you're able to really push your training and to take things to a whole nother level. Now, the first thing that I always like to say to my clients is I want you to look for the information that you don't know. Now, I know that so many of you, well, all of you have been in the gym training. You have worked with a coach in some capacity. You bring a level of experience to where you're at. And basically, the information that you have learnt previously has gotten you to the point that you're at now. I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge the fact that you men are the ones that have said yes to that. And in order to move things forward, then what we need more knowledge, we need more information, but we also need a growth mindset to be able to push things forward. So, men, I acknowledge where you've come from. And as we transition through this and move forward, I really want you to take some notes. I want you to, whether they're mental notes, whether you're physically writing these down, you might pop these in your notes in your phone. I think that what I'm about to share with you is really, really valuable for you and your journey. Now, you will know and you will see that in the app, in the EverFit app, that your programs have now been loaded into there. The nutrition will be coming and you can start to track your progress. Now, men, tracking your progress is the first thing that I want to talk about. I want to talk about making sure that you take the photos to make sure that you get the front, the back, and the side on image. And the reason why that's important is because on those days that we're questioning, is this working? We're able to look back on the progress that we've made and acknowledge where we're up to right now. So the first thing is making sure that we do take the photos, making sure that we enter all of the metrics in the app so that way we're able to track things moving forward. That is 100% what I need you men to all be doing. Now, we will be doing these photos consistently. You will see that I'll put those in the tracking and the training plan, so that way you'll be doing those every month. Now, whether you feel like you've had a good month or a bad month as such, I still want you to be taking photos and I still want you to be tracking everything. From there, men, you'll see that I'll be putting some habits in there. It could be something like reminding you to drink water. It could be reminding you to get sleep. It could be reminding you to stop and to slow down and to actually take some time for yourself to just recoup and just to reset and to go, right, I'm just going to take a moment just to breathe. This is a big part of your training. Training is not only about what's done in the gym, but it's also what happens outside of the gym, giving your body time to rest, giving your mind an opportunity to just breathe and just to stop. That is just as important as doing the bicep curls, the squats, and the bench press. So, men, as we move forward, what I think to myself is like, how is it that you can get the most out of your program with training with me? Well, I need you to show up fully. Now, I understand that we're all have responsibilities, we have commitments, but when you show up to the gym, I want you to make the gym like it's like your sacred time. For example, I know a lot of you may go to church, for example. So Sunday morning, when you go to church, you put your phone on silent, and basically you're present there in the moment. This is a big part of success when it comes to showing up fully. Because if you're showing up and you know that, oh, look, you're waiting on this work call, or if you're waiting on this or you're waiting on that, then your mind's never going to be fully present with what it is that you need to do. So I don't want you just to show up. I want you to be present. I want you to lean in. I want you to be physically, mentally, emotionally. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And what that also means is that you need to be honestly all in at 100%. So making sure that we show up fully. We also need to make sure that we own our results. This is point number two. You need to make sure that you not only show up, but you're owning the results. This is your transformation. It's not my transformation. I'm not the one there that is calling you at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning and saying, get your backside out of bed and you need to go to the gym. Like, it really irritates me when coaches are there trying to own your success. I'm here as a coach. What does a coach do? A coach brings out your best. They're there to champion you. They're there to pick you up. They're there to cheer you on. That's what my job is. My role is there to, yes, hold you to levels of accountability. But at the same time, you are the one that is getting in the car, driving to the gym, and going and doing the work. So make sure that if you are looking for support, that you do reach out. You're the one doing the reps in the gym. You're the one that is, showing up for life. So just remember that a victim mindset, it kills progress, and ownership unlocks it. So let's own the results that we have achieved and that we're going to achieve moving forward. Number three is that we need to trust the process. There's going to be times where things in your body may not be working how you want them to work. Now, I know that some of you have injuries, you've got limitations, there's challenges there. It sucks. I get it. But the thing that you still need to constantly do is still show up. You need to own the results, calculate and celebrate the small wins, and just trust the process. So basically, you don't need to see the whole staircase as you walk up there. You just need to take one step at a time. And what's going to happen is this is going to help your results accelerate. And of course, as you share your workouts and you allow men to cheer you on and to celebrate you, just know that this is where the mind shifts, the mindset shifts as we move forward. They all work. It's just a matter of saying, are you going to work for it in order to trust the process? So remember, number one, with that, we need to show up fully. Number two, we need to make sure that we own our results. Number three is we need to make sure that we are trusting the process. Number four is we need to make sure that we communicate openly. If you're stuck, reach out. If you're struggling, reach out. If you're crushing it, let's celebrate it. Sometimes we feel like we can only, depending on the communities that we're in, sometimes we feel as though we can't celebrate the wins. Sometimes we feel like we don't have a voice to reach out and say, hey, I need some help. So if you're struggling, make sure you tell me. I know a lot of you are friends within the group there. Share the success, share the struggles, build that communication and that community there. That's what we're for. So silence does slow the growth and feedback fuels it. So remember that. So communicate openly with myself. And, if you feel that you can, even communicate openly with the group. So basically, from there, I want you to do the small things daily. So the things that we track with our habits. It's about making sure that you are consuming the water. It's about making sure that you are getting enough sleep. It's about making sure that you're hitting your protein levels, making sure that you're tracking your food, making sure that you are doing the small things daily. Sometimes discipline isn't sexy. That's it. But what it is though, it's the foundations that come into play. We need to make sure, hit your macros. We need to make sure that you hit your training, reflect and repeat. Hydrate, rest. That's what it comes back to. So stack those wins, and then what's going to happen is they're going to constantly compound. So then number 6 is we need to make sure that we don't rush the outcome. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was the body physically and mentally that you want, that your goals are there. Building a strong body and a powerful life, it takes time, it takes the discipline in there. We can't rush these things. We need to make sure that we're not like chasing the latest fad or the latest hack in there. It comes down to doing not only 12 bicep curls in the gym, but sometimes 13, 14, 15, 16 to push it. That's what it's about. We need to be patient. We need to stay consistent. We need to trust what it is that we're working, but we also need to trust who it is that we're becoming. Because I know for every single one of you men that you have achieved not only the results, but you've also transformed and changed into being a better version of yourself. And then, of course, we hit number 7. And number 7 is we need to lead yourself first. So many times I hear this. I hear this with men. I hear this with women. I hear this with dads. I hear this with mums. It's like you're trying to fill everyone else's cup first, and your cup is over here drained. You can't give from an empty cup. It's the same as, you can't expect to feed someone else's family if you can't even feed your own. So you need to lead yourself first. You want to become like that better father, that better partner, that better businessman, professional. You want to become better. Well, it starts with how you lead yourself. That's why you're here. Like this program, it builds the strength, it builds disciplined men. It's not just physical, but it's also about life. And men, you made the decision to rock up. You made the decision to be here. So, men, we've got our 7 tips, like our 7 points for how we need to show up. These are the things that are going to help us get the most out of our training. So let me just recap. We've got to show up fully. We've got to own our results. We need to trust the process. We need to communicate openly. We need to do the small things daily. We can't rush the outcome. And we need to make sure that we lead ourselves first. Now, men, I know that that you are all destined to be a greater version of yourself. You've already said yes. You've already invested the money. Now it's time that we invest the time and we do the work so that way we can get the outcome that we want. Thank you, men, and I'll talk to you soon.